So, Dean, maybe you could tell us a little bit about this incredible organization, NoticeAbility.
I'd love to. I mean, I have to start, with the variety of different contributing factors. Obviously, the first being born with dyslexia and how that shaped the early part of my life, which of course is very similar to everybody else's story, filled with some tough times and some tough circumstances. But over the years, I was able to discover that there were certain things about the way my brain operated, which I suppose gave me insight into situations. And slowly, as I started to embrace that insight, I discovered that it was not just insight, but actually advantage. And to summarize a very long career, I wound up reading The Dyslexic Advantage, which of course was the only book in the last 3 years I've wrote. Excuse the plane passing over my
It
skies
means that
here.
we're live, so that's good.
So no, I read The Dyslexic Advantage, which was recommended to me, and it sort of sat on my bookshelf for a few years because it's not the format I like to embrace, and eventually was recommended so many times that I eventually opened the book, and literally I've found myself inside its pages. And it confirmed what I had long since suspected, which was there were some serious upsides to dyslexia. And that moment sort of compounded itself with another episode where I was at Harvard University for a conference on learning disabilities. And I walked into a breakout group, which was being hosted by the Carroll School here in Massachusetts. And there was this wonderful, gangly 8th grade boy who was presenting to this room full of educators, and he was clearly nervous, and palms were sweating. And he pulled out what looked like a size 11 basketball sneaker, and on the back of the sneaker was this sort of erector set that had been attached to the heel, and this long cord leading out of it. And he was explaining to this group that this was his prototype for a sneaker that would enable him to charge his cell phone while he walked. And there were some mechanics, okay, that needed to go into his prototype. But that aside, it opened up to the group, and the group just started bombarding this kid with just accolades and just kudos for his insight and his ingenuity. And I watched this kid literally transform in front of me from this little 8th grader into this deity. And I realized at that moment that this kid was going to walk out of that room, and he was never ever going to believe ever again that he was stupid or lazy or indolent. And those two contributing factors sort of compounded together. My suspicion of my own dyslexic advantage, reading the book, compounded with the affirmation, which was a largely internal affirmation, I believe, is what this 8th grader was experiencing. And I thought to myself, this is where we need to marry dyslexic potential and dyslexic opportunity. We need to take what I perceive to be the foremost engaging and exciting of the various professional walks of life that dyslexics find success in, and we need to distill those to a middle school level and introduce those to dyslexics who have gotten nothing but some really tough years behind them. So you imagine the remedial reading process and all of the challenges that entails, and the hits to the self-esteem. And you emerge as this very fragile entity going into middle school. And the problem is you've got about 2 years of this pause before you enter high school and are kind of forced into adopting what usually turns out to be your fairly permanent self-identity. And so I thought that's the moment that we need to engage these students and deliver them material that actually allows them to see the very substantial silver lining associated with dyslexia. And so I've determined that I am going to build through NoticeAbility, which is my organization, obviously a double entendre associated with that name, which I firmly believe. And we need to bring those four vocational paths, which is entrepreneurship, engineering, architecture, and the arts. And we need to expose those to dyslexic middle school students, but we also need to embed it with two of the most crucial tools that a dyslexic needs to succeed and stay in school, which is executive functioning methodology and social emotional learning. And so to circumvent that traditional barrier to entry being written text, what I've decided to do is embrace the IT environment and the various modalities that are afforded through that environment. So I've reached out to some of the best universities in the country: Harvard University, Tufts University, the Carroll School, as I said before, dyslexic specific K-8 school here in Massachusetts. And then I've taken the open source software from edX. And edX is a collaboration between Harvard, Stanford, and MIT, and it is the creme de la creme of online curriculum offering. And so what they've done as part of their social mission is to take that that software and open source it so that organizations like mine can use it to populate whatever we want. And so by offering the modalities of video presentations and audio presentations and graphic or pictorial and infographic tools, it enables us to embrace the dyslexic in a way that is not prohibitive, meaning based primarily on text. And I want to be very clear, this does not indicate in any way, shape, or form that I think that a dyslexic does not need to learn how to read. That's absolutely mandatory. It's a struggle, but it's a mandatory life skill that you need. But we need to then introduce them to educational paths that invigorate that deep-seated and often overlooked passion within us, and give us a channel where we can actually exercise what is our cognitive advantage in certain subjects, and allow those individuals to create a new identity for themselves as being vital, innovative, creative, smart, intelligent, all of the things that we as an adult population with dyslexia understand, but just desperately wish we knew when we were middle schoolers. So that's sort of what I've come up with as an organizational mission, and have reached out to the best in the business, Dyslexic Advantage, and a variety of other significant stakeholders. And as a collaboration, we're really looking to build something that is going to change the way dyslexics can interface with traditional education.
Yay, that's great. Well,
that's really long-winded.
Yeah. Well, it's a great goal. It's certainly needed. That's for sure. Yeah. So you're gonna do something crazy, right? That's the other thing I'm supposed to ask you about.
Yeah, I am. It's getting crazier and crazier as the day approaches. You know, I thought to myself, you know, I love to swim. Swimming is the sport that I've always excelled in, and is a very meditative way for me to spend my time. And I have the benefit of being on this beautiful island of Martha's Vineyard in this summer. And what's interesting is that the island itself is this confluence of people from all over the country, sometimes even the world. And what better way to introduce a community to the power of the dyslexic mind than to kind of call attention in a unique way? And so what I've decided to do is do the first official circumnavigation swim of Martha's Vineyard. Now, conservatively, this is a 50-mile swim. It's pretty daunting. I've divided it into 27 different legs because this 42-year-old body can't do anything less than can't do anything more than 2.5, 3 miles a day. But the idea, more importantly, is to incorporate a series of video blogs that enable me not only to showcase the vineyard in obviously a very unique way, right, from the water's perspective, but also to tell a tale, a narrative, if you will, about using this swim as a metaphor for the dyslexic experience, right? This massive undertaking filled with all sorts of variables and challenges, some that I can foresee, others that I can't. And the only way I'm going to get through it is through using that innate creative problem-solving capacity, and also to reach out to those that are willing to help me in ways that I can't, and also just to adapt through the perseverance that seems to be one of our hallmark traits. And so I've also decided to do these video blogs in conjunction and incorporate individuals from the dyslexic community who have recognized that their success is a contingency, they're a byproduct of their dyslexia. It's not that they have succeeded despite their dyslexia. They've just succeeded because of their dyslexia. And so I've got these wonderful educators, and I've got a couple of celebrities, and I've got a couple of kids, under the age of 12 who are just coming out saying, look, you know what? This is what I'm exceptional at. And it's just a very refreshing message as was sort of, introduced to the entire dyslexic community through the Dyslexic Advantage. And I just want to perpetuate that message by continuing to give voice to that to that novel but ancient truth that dyslexia is more than society thinks it is. It's actually a wonderful thing, in my humble opinion.
Oh, that's fantastic. So what's the URL of your blog? And what about you have a Kickstarter, or what do you have?
Yeah, so I'm using CrowdRise, which is another social fundraising platform, and the video blogs will be embedded into my website on the blog page.
Okay.
My website is NoticeAbility.org, so it's NoticeAbility.org, and in the blog page you'll see not only be able to track my progress around this island, but you'll also be able to click on these various videos that showcase it in each one of these legs. Now, I forgot the second part of your question. Sometimes happens.
So so the key is if everyone remembers to go to NoticeAbility, NoticeAbility.org, is that right?
Yeah, quite a name for dyslexic.
Then
right?
Yeah, so then they can actually look at your video blog, check out the interviews, contribute to your CrowdRise, right?
That would be wonderful. That'd be wonderful.
So are you started yet, or this is really
No.
kind of to start your organization?
Yeah, so the organization is just incubating as we speak. I've been at this for about a year, and I literally start my swim a week from today, being July 4th, and so I start on July 11th. And it's a wonderful realization when people far smarter than me identify some really some significant potential in what I'm trying to build, and so that just fuels my fire. And let's hope it fuels my caloric output, so that I can actually make it around 50 miles in ocean water. It's crazy, right?
Sharks? No sharks.
There's some sharks out here. I know more about great whites than I probably should know. Obviously there's a very insignificant chance of me being hit by a shark. It's about 1 in 11.5 million.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I think what's so interesting is that so many of us automatically go to that fear, which I don't want to call irrational because there's legitimacy to it, but it's such an improbable or unlikely. When in actuality, you've got a 1 in 5 chance of you or your child having dyslexia.
Yeah.
So it's so ironic that we focus on this tiny, minute chance. Yet so many people in the general population obviously have no idea how likely or how probable it is that dyslexia will become a part of their family in one way or another. Which again, I think is kind of a blessing, but not the early parts of life. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, great point.
It's a tough road to hoe. But that gives us moxie and grit, and I think if we can just insert an opportunity for the individual to kind of flick the switch inside themselves to recognize what their advantage is, a dyslexic is less inclined to engage in drug and alcohol abuse or illegal activity, because they will see at the end of the tunnel, there's not only just a light, there's this big blazing fire. And, when you get a devoted, committed dyslexic, watch out. I mean, there's nobody more effective, in my opinion.
All right. Way to go. Fantastic. All right. Thanks very much. This has been a great interview, and we'll send people in the blog post also to all your activities. Congratulations. Really great plan.
Look, I wouldn't be doing this without the Dyslexic Advantage, so thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.